My name is Ramya. I'm a group engineering manager in Intune, and I actually own a bunch of stuff that we talked about today, including Autopilot, Win32 apps deployment, so a lot of relevant stuff around here. But before that, I actually started my career with SCCM. So I worked on Config Manager as a developer for many, many years, and you guys joked about WSS earlier today. I worked on that stuff, so I have something to do with that. So patch management, app management, that was my start of the career before moving on to Intune. So that's a little bit about me.
And hi, everyone. My name is Paul Mayfield, and I'm a director for program management. So work really closely with Ramya and the rest of the engineering team, including folks that we've talked about today, like Dave Randall's in my team, Michael Niehaus is, David James is someone that we work with really closely. So just really grateful to have the chance to come here and meet with you all, spend a few minutes. We're going to again, go through a bunch of content. We'll go really quickly. I thought one of the really useful things to talk about here is the relationship of Intune and SCCM, because I think that has gotten confused within my own company, not just out in the field. And so I want to talk a little bit about our strategy and our direction with that, get your feedback and thoughts on that, and then maybe launch into a couple concepts if we could as well. And that'll take us to 5 o'clock, I'm sure. So with that, let me give a quick introduction here before we click through all of this, and this is fine to leave up like that. We think there are about 350 million commercial PCs being used in the world. That's any kind of PC being used at work. And amongst that population, north of 70%, about 200 million of those to 250 might be managed in any kind of way. And then Config Manager is the solution of choice for about 70%, 75% of those. And MDM, to give you a sense for Windows as well, is a handful of million right now. And Intune actually, and that's across all vendors, and Intune has the majority of those. But to give you an interest in scale, Intune's much smaller in terms of its real-world usage, and MDM is much smaller than is Config Manager, which makes sense with all the kind of content and discussions we have in these meetings, right? And so we gave an impression, I think, or at least an impression was taken in 2017 that I think this was powered by enthusiasm about some modern ways to use Windows, where you could have S mode and things coming from a store and Windows Update for Business, much of those new technologies, gave folks the impression that we were walking away or de-investing or turning the lights out for Config Manager. So that's not the case. Wanted to talk about that. And in fact, you can see we've been doing a whole bunch of investment that we've been talking about here in Config Manager. CM Pivot came out in 1806. All these kind of enhancements. We're continuing to do that. The team that builds SCCM is the same team that builds Intune, and we, because it's this critical infrastructure that people have built up over so long, we are continuing to invest in that. And we have, as you know, a number of investments that we're making across the Microsoft stack in the cloud. And so this is sort of the framing for how we think about those two things coming together. So if we think of the major workloads for doing traditional PC management, OS deployment, Win32 app management, that is what we say is our continued investment in Config Manager. Then we are working, and you could just click through the rest of this 2 clicks. We're working on 2 kind of ways to use Intune in this mix, which is if you have your existing SCCM deployment, you can attach it to the cloud. And the attachment technology is co-management. Actually, I was really interested in Chris's answer to the co-management question, so I'll follow up with him after as well. But our idea is that we are going to continue to build a whole bunch of new value and a new bunch of scenarios in the cloud, and we want to make those available to all of the SCCM install base, and we'll do that by enabling co-management. So our vision is you turn on co-management in your environment. Nothing changes. You continue to manage your devices the way they were before, even with on-premise AD and on-premise Config Manager. But then you get access to the scenarios that we're building in the cloud, things like conditional access workflows, automatically removing your access to Exchange when your device is non-compliant, doing modern provisioning, getting access to Autopilot depth. So some of the new functionality that we're talking about with Autopilot is the ability to go through an Autopilot workflow into a hybrid configuration where you're managed by SCCM, managed by on-premise directory as well. We have a whole bunch happening in security, our new ATP services being able to signal that a device a PC is involved in a SecOps incident, and then having that translate into a non-compliant state and an automatic revocation of access is an example of that. Some of the secure store stuff, we want the SCCM state and compliance to factor into the secure score in the cloud, and we want to facilitate that through the cloud attachment as well. I'm going to show you a little bit about security baselines as one of the concepts to go through here. We're building a whole bunch of more manageability into the Office Pro Plus workflow. So you've seen earlier today some of the simplified workflows we have just for uninstalling the existing Office and laying down Pro Plus. Then some of the advanced things we'll be able to do that. We're going to build those out of the cloud and enable those through co-management. And then finally, access to the Graph API, being able to bring the SCCM API and the data from the Graph API together and automate your workflows. All the sort of M365 integration, that'll be what we enable through cloud attachment as well. So there's more to have from here, but I just give you an idea of moving forward. We'll continue to invest both in SCCM as an on-premise management platform and doing the things like CM Pivot that we've talked about, as well as we're going to be building more and more management and access and security scenarios out of the cloud, and then we're going to bring those together with attachment. Now, if a customer is not using Config Manager today, so they're part of that 30%, 25% of the commercial space not using Config Manager today, then we want Intune to be a fully functional solution for them as well. And that's why we've added things like the Win32 support that you saw today through Intune Win to Intune, and a bunch of these other features as well. So from our perspective, if a customer comes and says, should I be going Intune only, should I be going Config Manager, we're going to say that's an organizational decision. We're supporting you in both modes. Our goal is to bring the investments that we're making in the M365 cloud to bear in your environment. And if you're using Config Manager, you like that today, then you should attach to the cloud and get those values. You don't need to have a plan to decommission SCCM or anything like that. So let me pause. I mean, this is kind of the big framing that we want to kind of launch into the rest of the discussion. Any kind of questions, comments, feedback on that so far from the room? Does this sound like what folks had already expected or sound different? Just absorbing? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 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 That's a fantastic question. And for the recording, the question was, there was an original notion that we had hybrid deployment that was a kind of cloud attachment from Intune to SCCM. That has since been sort of walked away from, and this sounds like another version of that. What's the difference? So I'm going to walk you through a couple slides after this where I think I can help answer that question. But the short spoiler on that is that the idea behind hybrid was that you could use the SCCM console to manage everything that was out in being in service through cloud infrastructure. The challenge with that was that that might have provided a good experience for sort of the PC estate, but it turned out that a lot of the mobile management paradigms were just kind of different and in their own tool set, that it sort of left behind sometimes doing the mobile management from that. So what we're providing here is now a way that you'll actually be able to manage your SCCM estate even from a cloud console and bring all that together through the unified endpoint management. That'll be one difference. And the other one is that it's a little, that this is a lighter weight sort of attachment where you can just enable the attachment to happen and you can continue to operate things kind of the way you were before, whereas there was management authorities and a whole bunch of complexities with the old model. And when we realized that this would be a cleaner, easier thing to consume, we kind of switched over to the strategy. That was SCCM and Intune teams together decided on that. So, yeah. Okay. Well, in the interest of time, I'll keep going, but I'll let that sit for a second while we go through it. Let me just show you one quick thing because this will, and click through the next one of this one. One of the motivating forces kind of at the company is we have all these different products that are available in our cloud services today, and they all have their own experiences for management. We want to rationalize that. We call it a coherency for IT initiative. So what we've done is created a single Microsoft 365 admin center. This is admin.microsoft.com. Folks had a chance to see that yet? Raise a hand. Yeah. Okay. And what we're going to do is have exactly 7 specialist experiences that navigate from that hub. And so if one of them is for doing security and compliance work, one of them is for device management, one is identity access control. So our goal is to have a device management specialist experience in the cloud where we bring all of the products together that are doing device management. So that's Config Manager, Intune, Analytics, Autopilot, et cetera, and give kind of a cohesive view on that. So just to give a quick sense on that, this is the kind of view you would get by going to admin.microsoft.com. It's really sort of geared towards SMB and generalists and that sort of thing. And you can see it's got some high level, how many users do you have and what subscriptions they have and so forth. And then there's you can see kind of on the left side, there's a nav to the Device Management Center. If you click on that, this is kind of the current iteration of that. And this is where we'll bring our experiences together across those products. So this is not the Intune portal, this is the device management portal. And when you co-manage, for example, your devices with Config Manager, then those PCs can show up here as well. And you can drill into those and take actions from the cloud on those PCs. Now, we don't currently have an estate where everything you could do from the Config Manager console could be done from here. And we're probably gonna approach this in a persona-based way. Like we'll try and provide a bunch of great help desk experiences from the cloud that can do the troubleshooting against things that are being managed by Config Manager or Intune, as an example. But you can see directionally what we're gonna do is bring together all of our Microsoft 365 admin experiences together in this experience and then enable SCCM to participate in that through the attachment. So that's the direction strategy we're going. That's the difference from the old model, yeah.
Intune code, which is now part of the Azure. So.
Yeah. So this will replace the welcome page on the Intune portal, if you will. So instead of trying to even make an Intune specific experience, we're going to say, here's Microsoft 365 device management, and we'll be evolving this to have all sorts of, would you like to set up your APNS so you can manage Apple? And here's an offer for doing foreseeing the SCCM estate through co-management and so forth, right? So this will be. We're going to get away from a place where it's an Intune-specific experience into being a cross-product experience. And we will keep the SCCM console, as is today, continue to invest in. So you'll be able to do everything you do today through Config Manager console. We're not going to turn that off and turn it on here. But we will start enhancing and allowing more and more of the personas in the company to start doing things from this web-based experience over time. That's the direction we're taking. Did that make sense? Yeah.
Again, it just kind of creates some complexity around which portal to go to and to see what. I mean,
yeah.
We see this already with Office portal. You have so many kind of sub portals within, and now this is like, for me, it just kind of creates a bit of
yeah. Well, we're trying to create the opposite of that situation, which is instead of having an Intune and an Analytics and an Autopilot and a whatever portal, we have this one that brings all that together into kind of a coherent experience, and that everything you need like today you'll go to portal.azure.com, you'll select Intune. If we haven't done this yet, but in the future you'll go to portal.azure.com, select Intune, and it will just direct you to this experience, and all of your Intune context will be lit up here. So it's not like you'll have one or the other. You'll have this one will just come the standard for it, and we'll try and avoid you then having to go to the Intune portal and separately to like the Analytics portal, for example. We'll bring that all together into one place. Yeah. Okay. Just double checking my time. Oh, we'll have to go faster. Okay. So click on the next one. I just want to introduce the security baselines concept to you and have a quick demo on it. But this is a new functionality that's in Intune, and I'm just making folks aware of this. You can do most of this functionality equivalently in SCCM as well, but this will give you an idea of kind of where we're going with policy. So to give you a brief overview, the idea behind it is the policy, the configuration items, if you will, in the MDM stack were limited compared to what was available, say, in group policy. We have extended the built-in MDM functionality with a lot of new controls, but we've also added the ability to use ADMX templates to be able to say, here's a collection of settings that I need to go deploy through the MDM system to a device. And then once you have that, the ADMX settings, that you can get that long tail of Office and even third-party app and Windows security settings covered. then we're going to build the ability to drive conditional access and compliance based on those things as well. So this is another direction we're going. And we then release this thing that Ramya will show you, which is the ability to say, here's a set of recommended settings from Microsoft, maybe a collection of 500 of them as a baseline. You can open that up. You'll see all the default settings we've put in there. This comes from the consulting we do. And I'll let Ramya go ahead and demo that.
So in the interest of time, exactly what Paul was just mentioning. So you'll see this new feature that we are going to release very, very soon, in a few weeks again, called security baselines, right? So when you click on it, the first thing that you would see is, playing with time here.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, well,
Right.
maybe this will come in the...
Okay, there you go.
All right.
So, and by the way, we are just about releasing this feature, and that's why folks in Redmond are refreshing the UI as we speak. So that's probably why we are seeing some lags here. Security baselines. So the one that we are going to release is the 1809 security baseline and the extensive set of settings and values which Microsoft will be recommending. To see what they look like, I had a few pre-created, and in the interest of time, let me just show you one, which is, give it a name. And here are the settings that Paul was just talking about. These are about 300 odd settings that are in there, and I'll open a few so you get an idea of what these are. So these are settings and values that Microsoft is recommending. You can, however, for your requirement or your customer's requirement, change these to make your version of this. So basically, let's say you want to change these for your specific scenario. I'm going to just pick any of them. You create a security baseline, and like any other profile, you deploy it to your groups, and you can start to see their compliance against your baseline. So if you look at the overview, if you look at the profile that was created, you see we provide reporting, which tells you the number of devices that match the baseline, the number that deviate, the number that are in error, etc. Paul, anything else you wish to?
Policy, sorry. Are they similar to group policies, as in what you normally download?
Group policies that you
As in admin?
The same settings that are in the baseline are the same values that are being configured through the GPOs. Yeah, and then we'll have baselines around all the ADMX settings that you're able to import as well. And so then what will happen is, you saw that Ramya had specialized one of the settings for an environment. You'll be able to see the deviations that you've deployed from Microsoft's recommended settings in the reports and things like that over time. So this is we think that between having recommended settings, by covering the long tail of settings, and by enabling all of this to tie into the conditional access system, we give folks a viable alternative to GP, as we evolve this over the coming months, and then we'll help with migration to this for folks that are interested in it. Of course, if you are based on configuration items and GP and things like that, you don't have to switch to this. Again, this will be functionality that will certainly be useful to the non-config manager customers, but you may have config manager customers as well that want to say, you know what, I might go standardize on something like this for at least some of my population because I at least get a dynamic set of recommended settings from Microsoft that shows up in a way I can deploy those out. So again, kind of organizational choice, but you see how we're bringing kind of a complete set of Windows management to Intune, which hadn't been the case before.
And we plan to refresh this, by the way, for each Windows release.
Yeah, maybe pause for just one or two more questions before I rush into the last concept and wrap up so people can leave at 5 o'clock. Yeah.
Do you have an option to, sorry, are these deployed by default across the tenants, or do you have an option to switch them off?
Yeah, so what happens is the security baseline profile shows up, but it's not assigned to anybody. Then you can make whatever changes you want and assign it to whatever groups you want. And you can even make 2 or 3 different derivations off the baseline that you assign to different groups of people.
So as you can see, in the baselines that I have, this one has an assignment, but there could be others. So unless you assign, nothing really happens with it. And you see this one is specifically assigned. Unless you take this action, there's no deployment.
Yeah. Okay. So then if we can just switch back quickly to I apologize for this being so rushed, guys, but if we switch back, I'll just talk one more concept, which was, Chris had mentioned that at SAP, There was a desire to have the update rings because there was a generation of people coming to work who expected a more up-to-date experience. I had a conversation with a large bank recently who had told us the thing that you all are doing with co-management is good for sort of enabling an incremental movement in a given direction, so you can make it easy to consume some of these cloud technologies with an existing technology. But if you want to really motivate IT to take drastic action or to do something more severe, then what you need to do is have a proposition for the end user that's really compelling so that IT can be the hero in delivering that experience, kind of along the lines that Chris was saying, right? And along those lines, Microsoft is a little bit unrelated to Intune and Config Manager per se, but part of the reason that we are pushing as a company Office Pro Plus is because it has itself, it's sort of the cloud-attached version of Office, and provides a set of experiences that Office is also investing in. So there are things you can do with Office Pro Plus that you cannot do with traditional MSI Office. And we thought we'd give you just a quick sense of that, because even though that, that may not be part of the job per se, understanding sort of here's the experience we could give and here's the differentiated experience we give to our end users, we think is an important thing to understand. So with that, Rama, you can give a quick.
Yeah, to demonstrate some of the AI that PowerPoint is now building natively into it. And remember, this only comes with Office Pro Plus. And I'm using a web version, by the way, so keep a note of that because this is pretty darn cool. Let's say that I'm working on a deck and I am by no means a designer. I take a lot of time beautifying decks. So this one, I thought it actually helps me in my productivity. Now, let's say for the purpose of an example that we are working on a project called Northwind Energy. You see this icon in PowerPoint Online or Office Pro Plus shows the ideas, and let's say that I want to actually put in some images and make this look pretty. I can use the inline search, and you see it found some images. So let's go ahead and insert an image into the PowerPoint. And you'll notice the minute I insert it, see, it gave me some ideas. It automatically generated a template, right? And it inserted the picture, and you see it adjusted the picture too. So I had a smaller version of the image. It blew it up so that it can occupy the whole screen, and came up with the design idea, and you notice it just took a few seconds, right? So pretty cool. Some others that it can do is, let's talk about the project scope. In this case, you see the first letter begins with a verb. And without me suggesting, you see some of these actually build the project scope out as a series of steps. I like this one because it actually talks about what the scope is and what the steps are. Again, right, you see the speed of it, this is built into, and this is AI built into PowerPoint. Next, and I find this very cool again because I'm not a designer and I can't build beautiful slides, definitely not icons. In case of goals, you see, based on my sentences, PowerPoint figured out and even found me iconography. Right? And you see, and it actually makes sense because in some cases, it found images that are relevant. Like when it says connect with our customers, it found some image that actually makes sense. Just imagine the productivity and the amount of time that you save. One or two more cool things is about milestones, right? A lot of us, for me, half my time is about building project plans and when we deliver what. I had to answer half your questions today about when things come up, so I work on this kind of stuff all the time, right? Milestones. So really cool for me, again, is to make it a time-based milestone, so it's very easy to read and puts a date in line. I see you all brightening up towards the end of the day, so Robert, do I have time for one small demo? I think you guys will really like this one. So since you're all happy and excited, if I can get a picture of you so I can demonstrate the next one. Okay, there you go. Oh, hold that smile there. All right, so the count of 1, 2, 3. There you go. So I took a picture on my Android phone. And let's say that I wanted to launch. See the picture that I just took? This is the Your Phone app, as the name suggests. It's an app that is meant for my phone, in this case an Android device. And there's preview of messages, so you can see all your text messages and photos that you take from your phone. And by the way, by the time I dragged it, it already showed up. I didn't have to hit refresh. So usually, a lot of times when I want to send some picture of my team event to my team, I take a picture, I send it to my email, I insert it into PowerPoint, and now I'll do it right in front of you guys. So you take the phone, the picture that I took from my phone, insert it into the deck, hold on. So by the time I do this, I also start to get ideas.
I think you have to click on ideas.
Yeah, there you go. And there you go, right? It took me a second to do exactly what I would have taken a few minutes, and this matters, right? In your productivity, when it's so quick, and I do this on a daily basis, so being able to insert it on demand, and the ideas got generated without me doing anything rather than take the picture. Make sense?
Yeah. So again, yeah, and we'll kind of close off with that, especially on the shortness of time. But that's one example of cloud enablement in PowerPoint. There are others in all the other Office desktop apps. So being able to then offer these kinds of experiences to your end users by standardizing on Pro Plus using Config Manager and Intune together to get that deployed, has a lot of benefit. So with that, thank you very much, and we'll hang around for some chats, but don't want to stand between you guys and the after-event party also. So, yeah.